Good morning. This is a deposition of former President William J. Clinton conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. On July 23, 2025, the Subcommittee on Federal Law Enforcement unanimously voted to approve a motion directing the committee to authorize and issue a subpoena to former President Clinton for a deposition. I'm going to note for the record that former President Clinton is not present. The time is 10:07.
A major political clash is unfolding in Washington, centered on the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and one of the most powerful names in American politics. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee says it will move forward with contempt of Congress proceedings against former President Bill Clinton after he failed to appear for a subpoenaed deposition on Tuesday. The deposition was part of the committee's investigation into how the U.S. government handled past cases involving convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer said Clinton's absence leaves the panel with no choice. Comer stressed that the subpoena was approved unanimously and on a bipartisan basis, not issued by him alone. He announced the committee will begin the process next week to formally hold Clinton in contempt of Congress. The committee had also subpoenaed former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who was scheduled to testify the following day. As of now, her legal team has not confirmed whether she will appear. In response, the Clintons sent a 4-page letter sharply criticizing the committee's actions. They accused Comer of using the Epstein investigation for partisan politics and warned that contempt proceedings could bring Congress to a standstill. The Clintons said they are prepared to fight both in Congress and in public, arguing that lawmakers should focus on uncovering failures by the Justice Department, not targeting them. Their lawyer, David Kendall, maintains that neither Bill nor Hillary Clinton has meaningful information relevant to the investigation. He argues they should be allowed to respond in writing, noting that Bill Clinton has not been accused of any wrongdoing and that Hillary Clinton had no involvement with Epstein or his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. So what does contempt of Congress mean? If approved by the committee and the full House, the case would be referred to the U.S. Attorney in Washington. A contempt charge is a misdemeanor and can carry fines or jail time, though prosecutions are rare. This standoff now sets up a high-profile legal and political battle, one that could test the limits of congressional power and reignite fierce partisan tensions in an already divided Capitol.
We will go on the record. Good morning. This is a deposition of former President William J. Clinton conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. On July 23, 2025, the Subcommittee on Federal Law Enforcement unanimously voted to approve a motion directing the committee to authorize and issue a subpoena to former President Clinton for a deposition. I'm going to note for the record that former President Clinton is not present. The time is 10:07. We're going to mark items for the record. We will mark as Exhibit 1, a cover letter from Chairman Comer dated August 5th, 2025, enclosing the deposition subpoena and email confirmation from former President Clinton's attorney, David Kendall, accepting the letter and the subpoena. We will mark as Exhibit 2, a letter dated October 6, 2025, from Mr. Kendall to Chairman Comer and Ranking Member Garcia. We will mark as Exhibit 3, a letter dated October 22nd, 2025, from Chairman Comer to Mr. Kendall. We will mark as Exhibit 4, a letter dated November 3rd, 2025, from Mr. Kendall to Chairman Comer and Ranking Member Garcia. We will mark as Exhibit 5, a letter dated November 21st, 2025, from Chairman Comer to Mr. Kendall. We will mark as Exhibit 6, a letter dated December 10th, 2025, from Mr. Kendall to Chairman Comer and Ranking Member Garcia. We will mark as Exhibit 7 the deposition notice issued by the committee on December 12th, 2025, We will mark as Exhibit 8 a letter dated December 15th, 2025, from Chairman Comer to Mr. Kendall, again urging his clients to appear and referencing that failure to appear will initiate the prospect of contempt proceedings. The letter also encloses the updated deposition subpoena for today's date and email confirmation from Mr. Kendall accepting the letter and subpoena. We will mark as Exhibit 9 the deposition postponement notice issued by the committee on December 16th, 2025. We will mark as Exhibit 10 a letter dated January 3rd, 2026 from Mr. Kendall to Chairman Comer and Ranking Member Garcia. We will mark as Exhibit 11 a letter dated January 8th, 2026 from Chairman Comer to Mr. Kendall. We will mark as Exhibit 12 a letter dated January 12th, 2026 from Mr. Kendall to Chairman Comer. I will note that the time is now 10:10 and former President Clinton has still not appeared. Does the chairman wish to add anything to the record?
Yes. It's a shame President Clinton failed to appear in accordance with our duly authorized congressional subpoena. This subpoena, I might add, was voted on by the Oversight Committee in a bipartisan fashion. The Oversight Committee will now initiate contempt of Congress proceedings against the former president for defying the law. Yield back.
And with that, we will go off.
Well, hold on,
the record.
the minority would like to make a statement as well. As a threshold matter, it's critical to reiterate that committee Democrats support cooperation with the committee as it seeks to talk with any person who has information about Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes. And we have consistently upheld that principle throughout his investigation. That commitment flows directly from Oversight Democrats' determination to pursue the truth about the horrific crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, no matter where the facts lead. Oversight Democrats support transparency for the American people. Committee Democrats believe that anyone with firsthand knowledge of the crimes committed by Epstein and Maxwell or the actions of their co-conspirators should come forward and provide that information to the committee. Today's proceeding, however, underscores a troubling imbalance in the majority's approach. The majority has relentlessly pursued only two former high-ranking Democratic officials. Oversight Republicans have taken no measures to enforce the duly issued bipartisan subpoena issued to the Justice Department for the full release of the Epstein files in its possession. On August 18th, Oversight Republicans issued a statement claiming that the Department of Justice was complying with that subpoena. To date, however, DOJ has made only a single production to the committee of approximately 33,000 documents, a minuscule fraction of the Epstein files, according to DOJ's own statements and recent reporting. DOJ's single production to the committee consisted principally of materials that had previously been produced to the committee or were already publicly available. Further, Oversight Republicans have refused to seek testimony from numerous other witnesses with firsthand knowledge of Epstein's criminal enterprise. That imbalance is particularly stark when contrasted with the majority's treatment of Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted Epstein co-conspirator. Oversight Republicans have not pursued Maxwell with anything approaching the vigor reserved for the Clintons. Instead, the majority accommodated Maxwell by delaying her deposition to allow her to pursue an appeal to the Supreme Court. And when Maxwell indicated that she would invoke her Fifth Amendment rights in response to the committee's subpoena, committee Republicans have not insisted that she do so on the record before this committee. These selective investigative choices must also be viewed in the broader context of escalating political interference. In November of last year, following public revelations concerning President Trump's own relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, President Trump directed his Attorney General, the Department of Justice, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation via a Truth Social post to initiate a purely political, criminal investigation into prominent Democrats, including President Clinton. President Trump made his expectations unmistakably clear. He publicly asserted that this committee's investigation into his own conduct was a, quote, hoax, and claimed that, quote, all arrows point to the Democrats, thereby signaling that law enforcement should reach a predetermined conclusion. Attorney General Pam Bondi promptly complied, assigning the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York to carry out the investigation ordered by President Trump. This directive from President Trump is not an isolated episode. It is part of a continuing pattern in which President Trump has weaponized the Department of Justice against his perceived political enemies, including former Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Notably, those politically charged cases were dismissed by the courts or rejected outright by a grand jury. Earlier this week, news broke that the Department of Justice under Donald Trump had opened another political investigation into Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, related to testimony that Chairman Powell gave in a Senate hearing last year. This latest action demonstrates not merely an attempt by the Trump administration to undermine the independence of the Federal Reserve, but illustrates even more starkly that Donald Trump will not hesitate to weaponize law enforcement, and specifically congressional testimony, against his perceived enemies at any opportunity. Against that backdrop, oversight Democrats have grave concerns about the president's publicly stated expectation that DOJ and the FBI will incriminate leaders of the opposition party, as well as the president's demonstrated willingness to use the nation's law enforcement agencies to distract from his own relevance to the Epstein investigation. Accordingly, I asked the court reporter to mark as Exhibit A President Trump's November 14th, 2025 Truth Social post seeking investigation into his perceived political enemies. I am also marking as Exhibit B the Attorney General's same-day public confirmation that she assigned a U.S. attorney to pursue the investigation ordered by the president. Committee Democrats reiterate that this investigation is not political and not partisan. Its purpose is the truth and justice for the victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes. With that, we're off the record.
On the record, I will note that the time is 10:16 and we will go off the record.